So, welcome to this session on data warehousing. We'll talk about data warehousing for next couple of days. So, the reason we study data warehousing is we hear, as the name suggests itself, right? Warehouse is where you store your products, right? And when you say data warehousing, you're storing data there. And when you talk about data analytics, of course, you need to know what data warehousing is. So a data warehouse is constructed by integrating data from variety of sources. There are multiple heterogeneous sources. It could be your data lakes or database, data coming from database, data coming from Excel, CSV format. So variety of even databases. There could be multiple databases, right? Oracle, SQL Server, MySQL. So data is coming from variety of sources, and it does support warehousing. Does support analytical reporting, structural, ad hoc queries, and ultimately that for uh, for decision making, right? So we will see what are different concepts of data warehousing in this tutorial. The first time data warehouse word was used in 1990. So what it says is it's a data warehouse is a subject oriented, integrated, time variant. So these are some of the terms, the features, and we'll talk about these features in some time. It's subject oriented, integrated, time variant, and non-volatile collection of data. This data helps an analyst to take informed decisions in an organization. So if you look at the data, the operational data, okay, the one that collects the data live, undergoes frequent changes on daily, or I would say even these days every second, frequent changes on seconds basis on account of the transaction that take place. Now, suppose a business user or executive wants to analyze previous feedback of any data, such as, say, product or a supplier or the consumer data, right? Which product is selling more, etc. Then the executive will have no data available to analyze because the previous data has been updated due to transaction, right? So the operational data will always have your new data. So if you talk about Amazon.com, and when you log into Amazon, everything that we do, log right from the login till we log out, is stored there, is tracked and stored in the database. So of course there will be lots of users logging in. So if I want to understand some component, it becomes very difficult because it has a lot of data, and some of this data may not be relevant to you. So how do you pick your best data from there? Right? So if you look at data warehousing, it provides us generalized and consolidated data in multi-dimensional view. Okay, we'll talk about different types of views also in some time. Along with generalized and consolidated view of data, a data warehouse also provides us uh, online analytical processing, or we call them as OLAP tools, online analytical processing tool. These tools help us in interactive and effective analysis of data in a multidimensional space. Data mining, okay, is also another subject which is very much related to data warehouse. Functions such as association, clustering, classification, prediction, okay, can be done, can be integrated using these OLAP operations to enhance the interactive mining of knowledge at multiple level of abstraction. Okay, and that's why warehouse has become a data warehouse has become an important platform for data analysis and online analytical processing. So let's understand the different components of a data warehouse. So a data warehouse is a database ultimately, right? Which is kept separate from organization's operational database. Operational database is different than the data warehousing. Operational database is always the latest, okay, and always has the latest information. There's no frequent update done in data warehouse, but in your operational database, there will be frequent operations made. So example would be live database of Amazon is an operational database, right? So it has to capture live records, like somebody logging in, logging out, searching for a product, etc. But if you talk about data of last month, if I say I need data of consumer data of last month, the consumer data of last month is fixed, right? It was active last month, but then now it is fixed. You don't expect a lot of updates to be done. Yeah, update might be done to correct the data. If there's some error or want to do data cleaning, you can do that. But otherwise, there is no update that is required. So almost zero update is required. Data warehouse, data for the database for the data warehouse. So data warehouse processes consolidated historical data, which helps the companies to analyze its business, right? And a data warehouse helps the business executives to organize, understand, and use their data to take strategic decisions. Data warehouse systems help in integration of diversity of application systems. A data warehouse system helps in consolidated historical data analysis, right? So these are these are some of the properties of data warehousing, right? So as you can see, it's a database of past data, historical data. Not much change is required, but it helps the executives to organize, understand, and take strategic decisions. That's the advantage of using warehouse. So that's the beauty. That's the reason why we spend time and effort to on this data warehousing understanding. Now, data warehouse is different from your operational databases, right? The operational database is constructed for well-known tasks and workloads, such as searching particular records, indexing, okay, logging into a system. But if you talk about data warehouse, these queries are often complex and they present a general form of data. Okay, so data warehouse queries can get complex. Operational database support concurrent processing of multiple transactions. Concurrency control and recovery mechanisms are required for operational databases to ensure robustness and consistency of the database, right? Because since these are live, you also need to have concurrency control. Because a lot of users will log in, they'll try to access same data, right? So your concurrent processing of multiple transaction has to be handled well by your operational databases. If you talk about number of users, okay, operational database will have lots of users logging in from many locations. Warehousing generally less, one or two or maybe three people, okay, working on the data at a time. Very rarely that three people will be working on the same data at the same time. Another thing is when you talk about operational databases, you will be accessing fewer records. Okay, so if I log in and so it's mostly like everything related to my ID will be shown, right? My login ID will be shown by I can see the past past orders. I want to visit products of my choice, etc. But when you talk about data warehousing, of course, they also have some queries, but the target is entire data. Okay. Optional databases might be less small. Okay. Uh, why? Because since people may not be interested of knowing what happened 5 years back. Okay, so there may be less chance of they carrying data of old data, right? But here we're talking about entire table data or large database. So an operational database query allows to read and modify operations, uh, while a warehouse queries, okay, just needs to read the data. So it needs only read access. Warehousing queries will need just read access. Operational data maintains current data. Okay, so that's why I said database would be smaller, but Data warehousing maintains historical data. So that's why your database can get bigger. Normalized data structure version and unnormalized. So when you talk about best practices of database, and we discussed a little bit before, right? We discussed about first normal form, second normal form, third normal form. These are the top normal forms, but you have other normal forms as well, fifth and sixth also. We saw an example earlier, long time back. So all the best practices that you generally think of are applied here. Okay. All the best practices that we think of are not, is done exactly opposite of best practices. Okay. That's why here data would be in unnormalized form, because if you put it in normalized form, it might take, because of joins, it might take some extra time to process and run the data. Okay, so data is dumped into data warehouses. Sometimes we can have duplicate data, also not a problem, because here the speed, okay, is in the design of warehouse, speed is taken as more importance than maintenance, because there is nothing called maintenance here, right? Unlike your operation database where you'll have to perform edits and delete, but here there's no perform, there's no edit or delete. Okay, so mostly read. And your operation database is more about your continuous update, whereas warehousing is a periodic update. If you want to analyze data per month, then you'll update it per month. If you analyze data per year, you'll refresh it once in a year, right? And also, the maintenance of the database is also much easy, because in the operational database, your focus is on transaction processing, multiple people logging in, then recovery, concurrency control, making sure that data is not lost in terms of when recovery happens, etc. But warehousing, no such problem. Now I want to talk about the features. Like earlier in the previous slide, we spoke about 4 features. We spoke about subject oriented, integrated, time variant, and non-volatile. Okay, what does each of these things mean? Subject oriented, data warehouse is subject oriented because it provides information. Um, okay. So if data warehouse is subject oriented because it provides information around a subject rather than the organization ongoing operation. Login options. Okay. Um, in bank, they might look at the deposit transactions. So you have a subject and your focus is only specific to that subject. Okay. Um, but these subjects can be product, customer, supplier, sales, revenue, etc. A data warehouse does not focus on ongoing operations. Rather, it focuses on modeling and analyzing of data for decision making. They say, okay, I don't care about how data is getting created or managed day-to-day basis. I'm more interested to know what information one get. Right? That's why it says subject oriented. There is always subject oriented. And if you do not know the subject, then it will be difficult to analyze what you want to analyze. Okay. Second is called integrated. A data warehouse is constructed by integrating data from heterogeneous sources such as relational databases, flat files, etc. This integration enhances the effective analysis of data. Okay, so it integrates us to to more to more types of databases. Okay, you might want to, let's say, analyze the customer buying pattern with weather. So buying pattern data might be in your database, but weather data may not be there in your database. So you need companies like weather.com to provide you the weather data. So that's what I meant to say when you say integrated. You need to be integrated with other sources of data. You cannot just believe in one source of data, right? Now, if you talk about customer feedback only, the customer could be giving feedback on Twitter, on Facebook, right? So you cannot just process with Facebook data. You need to take data from variety of sources where you have where um, the uh, the data is available, right? Wherever data is available, right? So sometimes you have to go beyond, sometimes you have to go to different sources to collect. Okay, maybe if you're just looking at the Facebook data, your output could be biased, right? So yes, so it's always better to look at variety of sources and from various sources. Time variant, time is a very key important of warehouse. If I need to know what happened in January 2023, December 2022 data will not be helpful, right? So data collected in a data warehouse is identified with a particular time period. The data in a data warehouse provides information from the historical point of view. Okay. And finally, we have non-volatile. The non-volatile means the previous data is erased when new data is added to it. Okay. So a data warehouse is kept separate from the operational database, and therefore frequent changes in operational database is not reflected in the data warehouse. Okay. So these are the the features of warehousing. Now, if you talk specifically about the different types of data warehouse, so you have information processing. So data warehouse designed for information processing. So data warehouse allows to process the data stored in it. Data can be processed by means of querying, basic statistical analysis, okay, reporting using crosstabs, tablets, charts, or graph. Okay, so that's called informational processing, where you aim into process and show an information, right, in a nutshell, in a customized form, in a very high level manner, right? That's what we call information processing. Analytical processing is about information stored in the data itself. So data can be analyzed by means of basic OLP applications, or slicing and dicing and drilling down, drilling up and pivoting. So we need to perform these kind of operations on the data for analytical processing, and then that's what we will do. We will learn these concepts, and we'll see how it can be used for analytical processing. The third type is called your data mining. So data mining supports knowledge discovery of finding hidden patterns, right? So data mining, the aim is to find a pattern among the data, and these hidden patterns and association will help us to construct analytical models, okay, and perform classification and help us to make prediction. And the visualization tools are used in this phase itself. Okay, and there are a lot of examples of the data warehouse. You have financial services, banking services, IT, or retail consumer went. Now here, there's a need to have operational data, of course, but there's need to perform a lot of analysis, isn't it? So where and these days every company, okay, which collects some form of data, and every company will form some form of data, right? It's not possible to run a business without collecting data. So if you want to analyze the data to make something better, or to make any decision of starting a new business channel, things like that, you need to go through it. You need to go through your past data and see how it has performed in the given sector, the given scenario. Only then you can think of moving it to the next one. So those are the applications, some of the applications of data warehouse, why it is used. We'll stop here, okay, today. And in the next section, we'll talk about what data cube is. Okay. So we'll see you tomorrow with some new topic as well.